As Rick mentioned, my name's Emyr Williams. At the time I did this work, I was a research fellow for ERLab, the partnership between Cardiff University and Nesta. I have since jumped ship and I'm still working with ERLab, but for Nesta, and I'm a program manager with the Infuse program that Rick mentioned. So if anyone has any questions or queries about Infuse, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. But for now, yeah, I'm going to reflect on some of the work that I did whilst at ERLab, looking at some of the principles and processes for designing effective challenges. And this was built on a rapid evidence review I undertook alongside some interviews with some key stakeholders. So if we can go on to the next slide, I'm just going to talk about some of the principles for successful challenges. And I think the first one here really is one of the most important, although they are important as you run through the different bullets. But the effective framing of the problem and challenge really is vital to ensure its success. So you need to really think about your problem or challenge at what I've termed a system level, thinking about whether it's simple, complicated, or complex. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Toby Lowe and human learning systems and complexity, but I will pop a link in the chat. But Toby Lowe talks about simple, complicated, and complex challenges and looking at recognizing complexity and how you fit into a particular system and what parts of that system you can influence. So it's a really good way of trying to frame that challenge and consider all the different actors involved. You always need to think about, why is it a challenge or why is it a problem? Is it because of lack of technology? Is it due to human behaviors? And then why is the problem not being solved by now? Is it because of a lack of incentive? Is there a lack of data, or just a lack of market to address the issue? And then thinking, although being careful in doing so, what kinds of solution are required? And does that likely solution require innovation? Now, that's not just to jump to say, oh, this is the solution that we need. That's what we're going to procure, because as I'll come to later, solutionizing is one of the pitfalls that you need to avoid. But you also need to think in terms of that system thinking, can you influence the part of the systems that need to change? And again, that all comes from that effective framing of the challenge and considering it at a system level. Now, to help in this process and throughout the process, really, discussion and engagement is really key. So you need to test the problem and build an understanding of the causes of that problem. So you may have an idea of why something is an issue and what the issues are around that challenge, but it's really important that you explore within your own organization or beyond your organization, who else is interested in the issue, who might share that problem, or who might have some views as to why it is a challenge and why it hasn't been addressed. Now, going through that discussion and engagement, you'll also help raise awareness of that potential challenge. So it'll prepare people who might be interested in being involved. And it'll also help you to understand what I call the innovation ecosystem. So who's going to be interested in potentially working with you on this challenge, but who else is out there in terms of might be able to address this challenge. And the more conversations and the more information you can gain around that ecosystem, the better that problem and challenge will be framed. And through that discussion and engagement, you can then look to explore collaboration. So you can think about who within your own organization might be interested in collaborating, but also importantly with other key stakeholders. So are other organizations interested in the solution? What kind of support could they provide to you throughout the challenge? Can they provide data, technology, access to stakeholders, etc.? And also, who in your organization would be responsible for the uptake of a solution if one was developed? What would be needed to be able to procure that solution? And can you collaborate to access any helpful data? I'll come on to a bit more about the uptake of the solution and procurement, as again, this is a real key point, but it's something you framing and looking at who you might collaborate with. Now, finally, it's really important to be flexible in relation to the challenges. So as Rick's given you a brief outline there in terms of the timelines, challenges can run over a long time period, and as I said, they exist in complex systems. So once the challenge is up and running, there could be easily be changes within that system that affect the challenge or the potential solutions. Now, COVID and Brexit are some obvious examples of this, but there could be numerous external factors that are beyond your control, which you need to react to. So that could be changes in policy or regulations around these issues. So it's therefore really important that you allow some flexibility within your challenge itself to ensure that you, and importantly, the innovators, are able to react to any external changes that affect those solutions. Now, if we could move on to the next slide, please. I just want to look at some of the problems and pitfalls. And as I did mention earlier, it's important to think about the types of solution that you might address your challenge, but avoid what I've termed as solutionizing. So it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking you know what the solution is before you've run the challenge. Now, this can lead to bias, limited innovation, and really a poorly run fund if you think you already know the answer to the problem. The whole point of a challenge or a challenge fund is to provide new and innovative solutions to problems that don't currently have an answer. So if you think you already know what the solution is, then I think the challenge fund approach is probably not the right one to be using. Oh, excuse me. Now, I mentioned this slightly earlier, but ensuring the eventual solution has a route to market is really vital in terms of success, and is one of the pitfalls that comes across many of the challenges in terms of measuring success. So ensuring the solution has a route to market is one of the biggest issues faced by challenge funds, and it's a specific goal at CCR in establishing this fund. So it is possible to run a successful challenge where a solution is found, but there's no route to market or way to scale that solution up. So it's therefore vital to consider how any potential solution will either be procured by your own organization or funded to become a successful product. This is a key reason why connecting with other people who may share the problem or be potential procurers of the solution is important in those early stages. So considering all of this early will help us plan for a more effective challenge, and importantly, adopting any solutions that arise from the challenge being solved. And getting the right incentive, again, is one of those pitfalls to avoid. Challenge funds tend to run through cash prizes or promises of procurement, and people can often jump to those as the kind of incentive for those different funds. But understanding what the barriers are to innovation will actually help identify the best way to incentivize innovators to address those issues. So it may be that access to data or access to key stakeholders might be the main problem, or awareness of the issue could also be a barrier. Now, support through the R&D process is undoubtedly a great incentive, but having the route to scaling and procuring a solution can be a really significant incentive for innovators, because they'll know there'll be a market for their eventual solution. And again, this is why framing, messaging, and communication around the challenge is so crucial to its success, and getting that right incentive is a key part of that. Now, the final slide. Some processes to prevent problems. This is where you might notice that Rick set me the challenge of including as many P's in my presentation as possible, so I can stumble over those. But the first P in terms of the processes is procurement. So one of the most important considerations in preparation of your challenge is to explore who will be able to procure the solution. So you really need to engage your procurement teams as early as possible in the process to explore if you can procure a solution, or what needs to be in place to do so, and just keep them engaged throughout the process so they're prepared when any solution is found. Now, if you're not able to procure a solution for any reason, then again, it comes back to this importance of engaging with partners. So most challenges are not specific to one organization. And as the theme for these funds are so broad, it's highly likely that other public and private sector organizations will be interested in a solution to the issue you're exploring. They might be able to join you in setting the challenge, and also might be able to offer a more appealing incentive to potential solution providers. They could offer access to data or expertise during the challenge to improve the chances of success. So it's therefore very important to engage with as many potential partners or stakeholders as possible, and go beyond the usual suspects and speak to as many people as possible within your time and resource limitations. And then the final three Ps, pragmatic planning and preparation. We do, and I've certainly recognized that the more planning and preparation you can do to identify the challenge, engaging partners and testing your challenge, the more effective it's likely to be. The more you can understand the issue, the market, potential innovators, and what's happening in the innovation space, then the more effectively you can plan and deliver your challenge. But I certainly know that you and your organization may not be able to devote substantial time and resources in preparation to this work. So you need to be pragmatic. Prioritize your time in establishing a procurement route or route to market, and try to test your problem within and outside your organization. There's lots of additional things you can do in preparation, and I'm sure Rick and the team will help you to support in this. Just remember that the more time you put into the planning element, the more likely it is your challenge proposal will be selected, the better your challenge will run, and the more likely it is you'll find an innovative and exciting solution.